Welcome to the Public Sector Show by Tech Table. Super excited to have you all on here. We'll kick off with Vanessa, returning guest.
Yes.
Is this podcast 4 or 5? I can't even remember.
It's at least number 4.
It's at least number 4. Yeah, it's at least number 4. I'm excited. For those who don't know you, give us a quick intro.
Vanessa Kenon. I'm the Associate Vice President for the University of Texas at San Antonio. We just had a big merger, so our name has changed to UT San Antonio, so lots of things going on down at UT San Antonio.
Tonya?
Hi, I'm Tonya Bennett, and I am the Director of Educational Technology at the University of Pennsylvania, where my team covers teaching and learning tools so that the teachers can teach easier and the students can learn easier.
Love that. Tim?
Tim Boltz. I lead our education vertical at Carahsoft. Been with the company for 17 years and very excited to be part of the conversation today.
Vanessa, we're going to kick off with you. We've covered the Bold Careers program, but it's just like a flagship program for you, which I love. Serves over 85 students, and maybe there's an update on that. Maybe there's even more. That has become part of the integration with the partnerships with eSports Trade Association, Six Flags, Dell Technologies, RackSpace, so many partners. We actually went to Six Flags in 2023.
Yes, we did. We took a whole group over there.
Took a whole group, yeah. It was fantastic. Walk us through just where we're at today with the Bold Careers program. Catch us back up for those who haven't tuned into the past episodes.
That is amazing. We are close to have served at this point in time over 400 students in this program. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about one that you didn't mention, which is a big one. And that is ServiceNow University. So we're doing some amazing things with ServiceNow University. ServiceNow has a component where you can go in and train. So for most places, if you're a university, your staff can go in and you pretty much buy credits and pay for this. For our students, it is a free service. And our students have piloted quite a bit of the work there that's sitting in ServiceNow University, including the new cyber component that they added last year. So we're really excited about that. The students go in, they get badging. If they go through the complete section, they get certifications. And so it's really neat because last year while we were here at EDUCAUSE, they were piloting the cybersecurity portion. That is now there and open for students across the United States to use. So a new pilot in there. So this year, I looked at them and I was like, okay, artificial intelligence, quantum's gonna come up on us. What do you guys have? We need you to do an AI component. They were like, Vanessa, we already have just dropped AI into all. They thought ahead of us this time. We didn't have to pilot anything. They thought ahead of us. And so just to give you an example of how popular this program is, for our spring semester, because that program is in cohorts, we have over 150 applicants in the portal right now for about 25 positions. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. But the students are really excited because if you haven't seen what's going on with ServiceNow and ServiceNow University, you'll also notice that Idris Elba is doing their commercials. So if you're watching the football games, the basketball games, he's there all the time. So for our students, if they didn't know a whole lot about ServiceNow at that point in time, they see this and it's exciting for them to go through that process to realize, hey, he's doing all the stuff for artificial intelligence right now, a big rollout, and they're a part of that because they're some of the first people to get a chance to train in that portfolio. So it's exciting to see what's going on right now with that program.
I've also actually had a chance to tour the SOC when I was there. And isn't he supposed to be like the next James Bond? I think I read an article about that.
It's going to be interesting. I'm not going to comment, so I'm not sure who it will be. I thought he would make a great James Bond, but I think everything I've heard from him is he's going on to do other things. As we can see, this is a big deal for him to actually be a spokesperson for such a large company like ServiceNow. And I'm really excited and so proud of what our students are doing. And we're going to see that expand more in our system. We have actually, since we had the only ServiceNow University in the system, everybody loved it so much. Now William, who you've had on your show before, William now has a ServiceNow University as well. So he's the second person.
I love that. I was just giving William a hug outside. So I'll see you tomorrow.
That's right, he'll be on your show. So he just added that to their portfolio for the entire UT system. So we're excited that we were the pioneers, the folks to get it started.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of exciting stuff right there. So Tonya, you're championing the tri-chair leadership model at Penn, where you've got the past chair, the current chair, and the chair-elect working together Walk us through a specific moment where the distributed leadership model prevented problems that would have happened as you are trying to grow that out at UPenn.
I am the past chair currently of the Penn Professional Staff Assembly, and that model is basically, it's an elected position, and we just elect a chair-elect. And so the chair serves and the past chair serves, and what helps with that model is institutional knowledge is not lost, because somebody knows what we did last year and we can just pass it on. And the chair is basically like an understudy. The elect is an understudy for the chair. So they're getting their legs under them and learning the ropes, while they also have mentorship of the past chair to tell them what to do. And I think that model is very helpful, because when I was chair-elect and I was supposed to be paying attention to what the chair was doing, I really wasn't. And I was like, wait, I'm chair now? I wasn't paying attention. What am I supposed to do? And the chair jumped right in and was like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what I did when I was chair. These are the timelines. These are the dates. These are the key people. They passed over a file that had all the information of what we did previously. So we weren't reinventing wheels either. And it's just a good model, because everyone has a piece and everyone has a role as written in our bylaws, but we're also learning and mentoring and doing the job at the same time.
Okay, so you teed it up. So I want you to cover the organization just a little bit more. And then now that you're the past chair, talk about the mentorship, the coaching that you're now providing.
Okay. The organization is the Penn Professional Staff Assembly, and we serve the monthly paid staff at Penn. And so we put on events, and we do professional development. We do lunch with leadership series. We hold an employee resource fair where they can dispose of electronics safely, and there's a shredding machine, and they can find out about all the resources available to them at Penn. So that's the organization, and there's an executive board, and then there's the tri-chair model. And so me as the tri-chair, it's just, so what I'm doing now is we're planning our employee resource fair, which is our biggest event by far. And so I just remind them, oh, when I was chair, I did this, or when I was chair, I did that when I was planning it. So that's really important for them to know. So just in case they don't know what they don't know, you don't know, if you've not been through it, you may not know all the little intricacies. And then I jump in and I'm like, hey, do we have signs? Okay, I'll do the signs. So I also do some of the work and planning as well.
I love it. So do you see how I teed this up? Have you talked to Vanessa about, you talked to her about TASSC?
No, I have not.
Oh, you should ask her right now. Vanessa, what's TASSC? We're going to give TASSC a highlight on this.
Okay.
Vanessa, what's TASSC?
TASSC is like our state, I call it our state of Texas' EDUCAUSE. So it's all of the folks that are in higher education, and folks that are in higher education, as well as in our public sector, as well as all of our public agencies. You're talking about the Texas Department of Transportation, the tobacco and alcohol for commission folks, everything that has to do with the agencies, and we have a lot of them in Texas. They all get together and they put on an event very similar to this one once a year, but we also have a State of the State in December, so I'll be going over for that. And I serve on the board of directors for that particular group in Texas. And we encompass also, we have been pulling in the community colleges. So it is a big organization down there in Texas, and we had well over 1,000 folks participating in our annual meeting this past summer. So a lot of the vendor partners you see here also participate in that event. I'm seeing more and more states are looking at that and looking at a way when they're not here at EDUCAUSE, how do we get everybody together in between? This is not just a once a year thing. And EDUCAUSE is doing the same thing, because EDUCAUSE just had yesterday its partnership summit, and there was close to 100 people there with both the folks that are here from universities as well as some of our vendor partners to talk about how can we partner together. And that's what TASSC does a lot of. How can we partner together with some of those vendor partners? And some of those partners I met helped us with our Bold Careers program. RackSpace is a great example.
I'm a proud supporter of TASSC, have been for many years, and can vouch that it's a great event and absolutely must attend.
And I would be remiss if I did not talk about what they do for community service. Our president now, Heather Hall, is really big on community service. So that's a big part of what they do for the community. They always put on a huge fundraiser for the annual meeting. Whatever city we go into, we fund things. Like we funded, oh my goodness gracious. The last one was for our veterans program in San Antonio. We funded eSports programs. We funded a travel van down in Galveston when it was there, helped to fund that. Just a lot of things that they do, but all year long, they're doing bicycles for kids during the holidays. They go to the cemeteries and put flags on the veterans memorials for holidays. Just a lot of things outside of just those events. We're constantly working all year long, as well as supporting some of the other organizations in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I met Vanessa when I think I outbid some people on a baseball jersey one year. Yeah, which was a ton of fun. And I got to give a shout out to all of the task members and agencies in Texas. Most of them have been on tech tables. We've got much love for y'all. So thank you for sharing that. Tim, you're seeing financial pressures mounting everywhere, but especially higher education space. We got decreasing enrollment, uncertainty around grant funding, increased legal pressures. You've got a wide portfolio. Tell us about an institution that's facing basically these perfect storm conditions, but decided to lean into technology investment rather than retreat from it.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Super important question. And these ladies can talk about their day-to-day and their staff's day-to-day on all of those sort of mounting challenges in the landscape. What I'm seeing as our education leader across the country is that the landscape is changing, right? Whether it's funding, whether it's priority, whether it's grants, there's just a lot of uncertainty. And decreasing enrollment depends on where you are in the country, but that pressure added with some of the other uncertainties in the market are creating real challenges that we have to address. And a couple of observations that I always validate as, hey, are these accurate, is that I think that IT is a great way to spend your hard-earned budget, right? That may or may not be increasing. I think it's all about return on investment. And so us as the vendor community have to make sure that you and your staff are successful when adopting a technology like ServiceNow University. I see tons of ROI, tons of application, tons of impact to the students. And so we have to do a better job as industry to help you guys tell that narrative and be successful internally. And so the universities and campuses that are leaning into that assumption that, hey, I am going to actually increase the amount of budget that I'm allocating to IT and spending it wisely and with a plan that brings all of the campuses together, right? As, hey, this is our priority, this is what our directional outcome is looking for, is something that is super important. And where I'm seeing investments be made is AI governance, cybersecurity, and then cloud. The operating model of, hey, how do we do this better? How do we focus on shared service in some of these aspects to bring best of class or best practices to the community that you're building? Because it's hard. Like, these things are moving at such a rapid pace that I think it takes a community and collaboration to deal with these challenges. And at Carahsoft, we've leaned in and created an education vertical, and we're really willing to be part of the community to see how we can help solve some of these big challenges. And the universities that are spending more on IT, spending wisely on IT, and collaborating with their peers, I think are going to be better positioned to impact the future and change their student outlooks. We've talked a lot about AI and how students need to be prepared for AI when they enter the workforce, and something that's a really cool pivotal moment. It's like the birth of the internet. I think all of us back then didn't know what the internet would mean for us today. I can't survive without the internet. I get things shipped to our house when I'm here in Nashville and located in DC. Oh, we're running low. I think the AI's market and impact is going to be 100-fold what the internet was to society. It's a really cool inflection point to make sure that our students are well prepared, and I think it's industry's responsibility to partner with our education and universities to make sure that we're ready.
And it's gonna take the ecosystem coming together to solve a lot of these challenges. I loved your perspective on that, especially the leaning in piece of it. It can be easy to focus on the pessimistic side. This isn't working, we don't got money, this isn't happening, but hey, can we lean in? Can we just figure out, hey, how can we find a solution to come, we can UTSA, you got so many partnerships.
Our partnerships are amazing. We just signed for our Roadrunner Gaming an MOU with Six Flags. We, of course, have been there with our Bold Careers program, having students work there, helping when they started to set up that arena over there, which a multi-million-dollar arena Coca-Cola helped to fund over with Six Flags. And we just signed an MOU for signage to be able to put some of our Roadrunner Gaming things there. That's how those partnerships come in, because funding is limited. So how can you look for creative ways to bring in that funding, especially for our students? And what we're doing with ServiceNow is we have students who work for us. Most universities have a lot of student workers. I'm sure you do too. So we have some of those students that we're training. They're going to work in our ServiceNow portfolio, which is completely different from ServiceNow University, and it's expansive.
Tonya, so we talked about a goal of frictionless, holistic campus experience. You lead the educational technology piece of it. How critical is it to prioritize easy integration and SSO across, just to really have a seamless experience? Those seem like very basic things, by the way, and in 2025, I still look on websites and I go, but the experience still isn't nailed. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
For in my space, in the educational technology space, for teaching and learning, we have an educational technology ecosystem where there's a core, which is our LMS and learning management system. For those who don't know what LMS is, and so everything plugs into the LMS, and the students only have to authenticate once because the LMS doesn't do everything. We need something to host our recordings. We need something to do our evaluations. We need something to do all of those other, even to give secure exams. We need a platform for that. And so all of these different platforms mean more credentials, more logging in, more clunkiness, more bouncing around from site to tab to site. And so basically the frictionless part is that the LMS is at the core, and through LTI integrations, we are able to start there and then just pass through credentials to all of the other pieces of the EdTech ecosystem. So if a student can go from reading something to watching a video to maybe they're doing a reading and watching a video before an exam, and it's all in that same platform, and they've credentialed once instead of credentialing every single time and opening a new window and getting lost in the shuffle. And that kind of automation is great. The other piece is that with that frictionless integration, our recordings for our classes go right into our LMS. So once a recording is done, once a lecture happens, it just passes right into the appropriate folder. The students have access to it immediately. There's no manual moving or matching or linking. As soon as it happens, it's automated. Even our Zoom, we're a Zoom shop, and even our Zoom recordings also pass right through and go right into the course folder. So students just get a quicker, more seamless experience. We saw fewer tickets, people aren't asking for things, people aren't waiting around for recordings to be moved. And so we went from, when I started there, we were in a fragmented system. And so there was a different LMS and a different platform for videos, and everything was so disjointed and fragmented, and it was quite an experience for me as an admin to learn it. So I was like, yeah, there's no way we're gonna put the students through this. And so we built a system that they can move around and get to all the pieces of the puzzle without actually leaving. It iframes in, and it's wonderful, and that's our ecosystem, and that is very helpful for our students to have a frictionless experience. And so it's all about the user experience. And as an end user and as being a professional student, I get both ends. So I totally get the student's plight, and I totally get the admin plight. So I get to see it full circle. And so I think of myself as a student, what I would like the experience to be, and I've created that for our students.
Yeah, no, I love that. Are there any satellite campuses?
Oh yes, some of our schools have different campuses. I work at the vet school, but Wharton has Wharton San Francisco, and so there are other campuses of the University of Penn. We have 12 schools, okay. Particularly Wharton, some of the schools.
The next podcast after this, we're gonna have Joe Way, and then his buddy, BC Hatchett, who is your position, but at Vanderbilt University.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is gonna be great. Vanderbilt's about to launch a number of satellite campuses. That's why it was top of mind for me. So Vanessa, did we talk about Roadrunner Gaming? I don't know if we mentioned Roadrunner Gaming quite yet.
Yes, just a little bit. We talked about them and Six Flags and the fact that we just signed that MOU. And it's going to be exciting for the students because I want to see what they come up with. It's beyond just putting jerseys in there. What are some of the other things that people who are coming through Six Flags, if you think about it, we have a dynamic Six Flags down in San Antonio. There's no really amusement parks that size in Houston. So we get all the traffic from Houston, we get all the traffic from the Rio Grande Valley coming up to that Six Flags park. As soon as you walk in the door of Six Flags, that arena sits right there to the right. So On a hot day, it's a great place to go and spend some time. It's going to be interesting to see what the students put together. And to me, that's a student program. So it's run by students, but we still have to work with them. They have an advisor. Dr. Siddiqui works with them. But for all things that have to do with compliance, making sure they're doing things the way they're supposed to be doing, from the technology portion, policies, making sure they're following the policies. I have all the technology policies and stuff. So that's why we're involved with that particular group. Plus, we also have the eSports Trade Association. Basically, that organization is under IT as well at UTSA. So really exciting things going on.
Can you talk about the experiential learning? That's a big piece at UTSA that you're leading.
Oh yes, our experiential learning program is amazing. We get a chance to work with folks, so the students serve as interns and ambassadors. UTSA has a goal for a very large percentage, more than 75% of our students, to have some type of experiential learning experience while they're there at UTSA. So the Bold Careers program gives them that opportunity both inside the university as well as outside. And I tease because I know I have one contractor who works with me, and he does stuff for the federal government. He's a Department of Defense contractor. Those students report directly to me, but I have no idea what they do. They're working on artificial intelligence. They do things in space. We're going to be doing a hackathon with them. There's a lot of things involved there for the students to get involved with. And of course, we have some who work in the Security Operations Center from time to time. Of course, we talked about ServiceNow. RackSpace has been an amazing partner. They've been the type of partner where they come in, they do lunch and learns, and not just with our students, with our faculty and our staff as well. And then our students are going out to their facility. They have a brand new multi-million-dollar facility over in San Antonio. Our students get a chance to go there, and they're holding events for them on the weekends even, during the course of the time. So they've been very committed. And the list of partners, I can't leave out Dell, who has been on campus all the time, just absolutely amazing in what they're doing and what they're doing to help us set up our eSports lounge at UTSA, as well as CDW, who's also played a part with articles, support, coming out to support our events and our students' events. I could go on and on. XP League as well. All the folks on our jerseys, when we bring out jerseys, you'll see all the names of the people who are there. Weaver Technologies in San Antonio as well has been a big supporter of some of the things that our students are doing and some of the things that they're doing. So just nonstop. And we keep adding to that portfolio. And I do believe that's why EDUCAUSE is very much supporting those vendor partnerships. And that's why they're having that summit. We meet twice a year, by the way. We meet here at the annual meeting, but we also have an online meeting. So we've had 3 meetings that started last year in San Antonio, and we'll continue to see how we can do a better job as universities and vendor partners working together.
Joe, if you don't mind, Vanessa, we represent 1,500 manufacturers. The vendors, you just mentioned a lot of our partners, Weaver, CDW, Dell, et cetera. Representing the industry, how can we help you with that community build, that collaboration? If new vendors want to get involved in the esporting and gaming sort of industry, which is, I think it's, as an employer, I think it's great. Students that participate in the D1 or collegiate sports, esports is the same. We get the same skill sets. And so I've hired a few folks coming out of esports, and they are phenomenal employees. They are ready for the workforce.
We'd love to. And as you talk about that, and the esports and the folks that are coming out as gamers as well, look at what's happening, and I think it's a great point with our air traffic controllers, how we need so many of them. If you look, I do believe it was NBC News did a special on that, on the fact that the kids that are coming out as gamers, when you go through to be an air traffic controller, it's a serious operation to be able to do that. Their hand-to-mind coordination is much faster. They're the people that are passing the test. Those are the people who are going to be taking care of us as time goes on. So it's not just about the gaming, it's about all the other stuff that's going on. Think about the drone technology that's going on in our military. Those are the folks that are going to be doing that. The esports is now going to be an Olympic sport. A lot of people don't realize that, so it will be in the Los Angeles Olympics. LA, and Joe will talk about that, I'm sure, when he's here. They're doing a lot out there in California to really pick up and get prepared for that. And I also didn't mention Extron. Extron has been a wonderful partner as well with our classrooms, looking at what we're doing with esports lounges, and they're out there in Anaheim. So they have brought a team together too to look at what's happening with that. And then looking at the professional side of gaming, there is a lot of money made on that side. Just like we're seeing with sports betting, you're also seeing that with eSports. I went to I do believe it was a Blast TV event. It was called Overwatch in Austin. And they tell me it was almost $1,000 for a ticket to get in there, completely sold out. It was almost like going to a WWE competition where the guys come out with the smoke and the whole works, and people are sitting there watching them play games. So there's so much more to it. I also see, as we start to talk about artificial intelligence and some of the other things, we're going to see a lot more with gaming and technology move into our workplace for training. It's just a part of it. Even if you think of what we're doing with ServiceNow, the students are getting badging, they're learning, they get a badge. There's not much difference between the two things. So yes, there'll be lots of opportunities.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
Plugging my own content, which I always have to do. We interviewed the CIO for the city of LA, Ted Ross, LA 2028. I live in Santa Barbara, so we're like getting a bus, hopefully an autonomous bus. In the words of my friend, Ryan Murray, state CISO in Arizona, I want to double click on something. I want to talk about simplifying the procurement process. You were asking about how you can help, but can you talk a little bit more about how seamless Carahsoft makes it for their partners?
Absolutely. So Carahsoft is the leading distributor in public sector. So need to differentiate between a distributor and a value-added reseller. We can talk about that. That's probably its own 30 or 45-minute Tech Tables talk. But essentially, our view of the world is that we need to make it easy for you all to procure the technologies when you need to procure it to serve the mission of supporting your students. And so what we've built is a platform of cooperative purchasing, state purchasing vehicles across the entire country. And what we do is we act as an extension of your contracts and procurement team, so that when your procurement team says, hey, here is Texas's rules, regulations, requirements, here's Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's rules, requirements, et cetera, we turn it around and go to our 1,500 manufacturers and say, hey, if you want to sell in Texas, here's the law. You have to agree to this. Hey, if you want to sell in the Commonwealth, here's the law. You have to agree to this. So we're trying to be a good partner and an extension of your procurement process, so that when you fill out the requirement, all of the manufacturers that can serve that requirement have already agreed to terms, are already on contract. And so now it's not an RFQ, it's not a sole source, which could take 12 to 18 months. Now it's a, hey, I'm going to go use the state contract vehicle or the cooperative vehicle, and all the terms are the same, so it's apples to apples when you're selecting the manufacturer that you want to procure. And a lot of folks don't realize that Carahsoft has already done or laid this groundwork. And so that's my mission here at EDUCAUSE, is to educate all of the vendor community, but also our customers on, hey, there's an easy button out there, it's called Carahsoft. And if you don't trust me, call your DIR, right? And ask them. Call your state procurement agency and ask them about Carahsoft and what contract vehicles and what the rules and requirements are, and they'll tell you exactly what I said. I'm just happy that we're getting the word out, and as the technology outpaces us, right, the innovation is just exponential. And I think this has always been a problem in public sector, having a contract vehicle or terms that will keep pace with the pace of technology. And so we're doing our best to tighten those two curves as best we can to make sure that you guys are supported when it comes to technology. I think it's always a problem, and you have a partner on the other side that understands it and is trying to make it better.
And I was going to double click on that, but he beat me to it and say yes. For us in Texas, Carahsoft and DIR, they are on top of things. Our task organization, Carahsoft has been great.
Thank you for that.
I love that you double clicked on my double click.
On it.
That's right.
That was great. That was so good. But the simplifying procurement piece is, I think, becoming such an urgent problem right now, whether it's NASIO or EDUCAUSE. It's become so hard to actually procure solutions. Like, everyone's thinking, hey, how can we make this simpler? What does this look like? What does AI look like in contracts? Can we just make it easier? There's a lot going on there to unpack, so I appreciate that. So Tonya, let's jump back over here. So given your background and focus on AI governance, do you have a law degree, or did I just make that up?
I do. I have a master's in law.
So you're probably better equipped than me to have this conversation right now. But talk about the legal and business context of how you spot and navigate critical compliance issues, especially in the age of AI.
Oh, wow. How long do we have? No, I'm just kidding. So I could talk about this all day, quite honestly. But one thing I learned in law school in my master's program was to spot issues. So I'm great at spotting issues. Not that I can really do anything about them, but it's made me very aware and very risk averse as well. So I'm like, ooh, who's accountable? Who's getting sued if something goes wrong? And I do follow those cases and just see what's coming out about AI. And it's a weird space because we're in a hype cycle and things are moving so fast. And so right now, just governing and vetting and like procuring and using AI is definitely, it's moving so fast. It's moving faster than I've ever saw. Even higher ed, I feel like it's a little bit glacial. And so it's just things are moving so fast. And so there are a lot of issues, right? So there's intellectual property issues. Where are these models? What are they trained on? Are they trained on things that are copyrighted? Do we even know? Do we even care? I think of a lot about those issues. Those are the kind of things that keep me up at night. And then with the rise of agentic AI, we're thinking about agents acting on your behalf. And if an agent acts on your behalf, who's responsible? Are you responsible? Is the agent responsible? Is the company that is providing who's responsible? Who makes the guardrails? Who's watching what's going on and who's really aware? And I really enjoy just thinking through those issues, and even with likenesses. So the United States feels like likenesses can't be copyrighted, but our friends across the pond feel like that they should be copyrighted. So if someone takes me and does a deep fake, what are my options? What can I do with that? And of course, the technology is going to outpace regulations all the time. So it's an under-regulated space right now. And so it's a bit of the Wild West, if it were, as far as like the law goes. I've just been watching it very closely and trying to tell people to use AI responsibly. And so we have a lot of work to do in order to set some guardrails, because there needs to be guardrails and people just need to understand there are also environmental issues and sustainability issues. How much water are we using to run this GPT search for me to make myself with a shirt that's a meme? So there are just so many things to think about in governing use and space and who has access and what permissions an agentic bot has, what they don't have. And so there's a lot of things to just think about in this space and in this area. And I talk a lot about that on my LinkedIn. And yeah, and I follow all the cases, so you'll be able to see who backpedaled on copyright is really a big one, because it's protected material, then there's a fair use, but then people want to use fair use, but then they don't want AI to use their content because it's not fair use, but is it? And who answers that question and who decides? And it's a very interesting space we're in right now as far as AI, because it's very underregulated and it's moving at lightning speed.
Yeah, the federal government's trying to figure out, the 50 states are trying to figure it out. There are actually a couple thoughts. Number one is, so on LinkedIn, if you don't opt out of it, they will train on your own profile. That's crazy. I have opted out. I don't want them training on tech tables. But I do want to say, if the benefits are high enough, you will want it. And I think the best use case for this is like TSA, right? You want my fingerprints, you want my eyes, I can go through the airport faster, you want 2 hands. And we actually talked about this, shameless plug, for my private community, the Collaboratory. Rich McKimji is the CIO for the Las Vegas airport, and we talked about this very thing. If the benefits are high enough, people are willing to, and I'm guilty. I don't know what Clear does at all, but they have it, and so does TSA. And I'm in the TSA Clear line. I'm moving.
Yep, me too. Global entry.
So yeah, we're all guilty. We're all guilty of that. So Vanessa, as we turn the corner, as we're wrapping up, and then we'll finish off with Tim, there's this tug of curiosity and compliance. It's just this constant back and forth. How are you keeping that culture? UTSA is pretty innovative. How are you keeping the curiosity and the innovation on the forefront and not being so restrictive on the compliance piece?
I think it's talking to the different departments, keeping in touch, knowing what's going on, because there's a lot going on. When you're in a large university like this, and with the merger it's even larger, you have to know what's going on. I thought one of the great things they've done is, like on the compliance end, especially with technology, they had a really great group over at the medical side. We had a really great group over on our side. And so we've all now merged together. And so it's a matter of talking to each other, making sure we're keeping everybody involved in what's going on. if there's something happening on the academic end or something that wants to change along the way, that communication, I do believe, is so important. And we have a great internal audit group too as well. So the internal audit group works very closely with us and keeps us out of trouble. If we see things coming up, we have, of course, our CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, who works with us. He's very strong. We also have another person who works inside of the CIO's office that works on that particular area. So the two of them are constantly talking and working together. We have meetings on a regular basis, so we're looking at things. And so I have hot policies for the IT department, so that falls under my particular area. If there's something that's off kilter, someone will ask, where's the policy for this? What are we finding? Who's governing this? Whether it's a federal policy or a state policy, to make sure that we have all the appropriate links hitting at the right places, so we know that, hey, we're following this particular policy. As we look at artificial intelligence, that's been a big one because people reached out and said, hey, what are you putting in your policies for artificial intelligence? We'll put whatever the federal government tells us to put. You can't go out there and just write policies for your university, because you're going to have federal policies, you're going to have state policies. And so that's how we've handled those. And if it's something that's not right, then we reach out to the person and say, hey, did you read policies such and so? And we have yearly training for our staff. So it's not like something that sneaks up on you. Those policies are there for them to go out, look at what those policies are, what they should be following. And when something's off, I definitely get a call or an email and say, hey, do you realize such and such department is doing this? And then that's a situation where either our CISO or our deputy CIO will meet with that department. They get it all worked out. And so it's a matter of communication. Communication is so important in this day and time because things are moving so fast.
Yeah, and a friend of ours is Craig Hopkins, who's the CIO of the city of San Antonio. Also a collaboratory member. Thanks, Craig, appreciate you. And we actually just talked about this. We just had a retreat here in Nashville. One of the things we talked a lot about was the difference of starting with, hey, what problem are we trying to solve right now? Because a lot of folks have rushed to governance, especially on the state and local side. What's our governance policy? And it comes from, I get it, your boss. This could be the CEO's office, this could be the mayor, this could be, you name it. Hey, what's our policy? And you're like, I don't know, I'm gonna go create one, but just pausing enough to go, well, what problem are we actually trying to solve here? And maybe you just don't even have to do any work at all. You're like, we're just gonna pause on this, let's just take a breath. Let's not go to ChatGPT and create a governance policy. Yeah.
Exactly, you wait to see and you have to, because you can create something. It's going to change when the federal government or the state government, anything coming down from the governor's office, makes those changes. So we're in a wait and see, and you're right.
One of our big focuses, Vanessa, is spot on to what you were saying, is we call it technology for policy. And we do a lot of work in the federal government. Probably 50% of our annual revenue is from the federal government. So working with the DoD and Intel and civilian agencies. But one of the biggest policy changes is the CMMC, security compliance, how you use data, and how that's going to impact higher ed is through your work in supporting of the federal government, through all the grants, et cetera, that you're supporting. And so you mentioned you're doing some work with DoD and space, et cetera. And so all of that data has now new CMC requirements that are going to be passed down. And so we're doing a lot of education to the community on here is where the policy is going, right? Here's how long you have, here's what the standards are, and then here are some of the technologies that could help you get to that standard. And most of these technologies are already in your technology stack today. Exactly. It's just, hey, how do you tweak what you're procuring or how you've built your security posture to meet those requirements? But same thing with HIPAA, right? HIPAA, cybersecurity compliance is changing, or data compliance is changing. CMMC, FedRAMP or TexRAMP, all of these things are, and we talked about just the complexity and how quickly things are moving. And not often does policy move quickly, but because of all of this demand and innovation that's happening, I think policy is going to shift, hopefully quickly, and maybe not too quickly to allow us to react, but something that I think more and more of us are going to focus on is how do we meet these compliance requirements to lower our risk?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to, we got GovRamp and we got NASIO, to my friends in Arizona. Maybe they're all in Arizona. J.R. Sloan is the state CIO, been on the podcast several times, but he was also the president of GovRamp and now the president of NASIO. Great guy. So Tim, as we close out, love to hear from you, just maybe 2 or 3 trends across your portfolio, those kind of non-obvious insights that you're seeing right now that maybe leaders should be aware of.
Oh, so great question. I would say the biggest priority is building that community. I think the organizations that are building community, sharing best practices, leaning into shared service for whatever the problem that they're trying to solve, whether that's AI, GPU acquisition, right? There's a long lead time to get those chips. Cybersecurity, right? Some of the big organizations have CISOs, have a large cybersecurity team that can really react and be on the cutting edge of technology. But some of the smaller organizations, community colleges, K through 12s, et cetera, don't have that same bench of talent or even workforce. How does community teach them best practice and get them up the learning curve faster? Just one example, right? Cybersecurity is a group sport. If everybody's secure, the hackers go somewhere else, right? And so I think to round this out, I think community building, shared service, and then maybe best practices or building excellence is something that's important. The second one is workforce. I think all of us have probably dealt with workforce issues, lack of talent, building our workforce internally to do higher skilled, higher impact jobs. What does AI look like and impacting our workforce? And I'm a big proponent of education, continuing education. I'm a constant learner as well. And so I think, how do we prepare the next workforce for some of these challenges that we've talked about today? And so those, I think, are the two things that I would end the conversation with.
I love that. A friend of mine has this quote. I'm going to end with it. It's so great. I tell it to everybody because most people are not even going in this direction. And it has to do with building community. And it's this: without a community, you're just a commodity. I tell it to people all the time. Without a community, you're just a commodity. So building community and the workforce, love both of those. Thank you for coming on the Public Sector Show by Tech Tables.
Thanks
Thanks, Joe.
for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.